is a tool. But when that light hits the sky...
Matt Reeves, welcome to Colombia. I'm wondering what your relationship to the Batman was before doing the Batman and what it is now and whether it has changed.
Oh, sure. I mean, well, my relationship with Batman goes to really my very early years. I mean, Batman 66 was my first Batman, Adam West, and I was born in 66. And so I've been a huge fan of Batman since I was a kid. And the character meant so much to me. I think, I think he means so much to everyone, who loves that character. It's like he's endured for over 80 years. And for me, I was so drawn to, just his style, the idea of the cowl and the cape and the car and all that stuff. I thought that was super cool. But I think, obviously as I grew up and they started making sort of, the Burton movies and then the Nolan movies, like watching the evolution to me has been really exciting. And
it's a warning.
And for me, I think taking on the character was very daunting because everybody has their own version of the character in their head, right?
Of course. Yes.
And the films, there've been great movies, and so it's not like you're just doing, oh, okay, it's just a Batman movie. It's like, oh my God, it's a Batman movie. You feel like you're entering into a kind of hallowed space, and I think my relationship sort of changed in that what for me is exciting as a filmmaker is to think about how certain stories, if you're going to do a genre story, they allow themselves, if you have the kind of right enduring myth, and Batman is one, it's an opportunity to explore our world, right? You can use the metaphors of genre and genre filmmaking to do something that really relates to the world that we're in. And that was something that was really important to me, was that Gotham be very much its own world and a world that we know from the comics and from the history, but that it be in this iteration, as I think, the other films in their way would do, it needed to be very of this moment, of this world, and of our world, so that when you looked at it, you thought, okay, I've never been to this Gotham, it's not New York, it's not Chicago, it's definitely its own place, but I feel like this is a city somewhere in our world that I've just never been to before, and that it would relate to people's lives, even very much connected to our times, because I think that's the point. Anytime you do a Batman story, you want to be able to bring it into the present so that it relates to people's lives. And so for me, I think that's how my relationship to the character changed, is that I saw an opportunity to explore something personal.
This is a powder keg, and Ritter's the match.
I can take care of myself.
If this continues, it won't be long before you've nothing left.
Let's talk about your take on the character. Let's talk Kurt Cobain. How is Kurt Cobain related to the Batman?
Okay, well, I mean, that's funny because the Kurt Cobain is really a tone in it. And I think what happened was I started listening to Something in the Way when I was writing. And there was something in that tone that spoke to me about this idea, not of Kurt Cobain directly, but of the tone of his music. And the idea really, I guess, of him being kind of a rock star who I kind of remember as being somewhat of a recluse, right, to a degree. Like, he had an interesting relationship to fame. And I thought, well, that's an interesting way to think of Bruce Wayne, to not make him literally Kurt Cobain, but that vibe of him having this kind of edgy rocker, sort of tortured vibe about a guy who, we'd seen the version of Bruce Wayne that was sort of the playboy and the one who sort of drove a Maserati. And I thought, well, there's another reaction that you could have to the death of your parents and to being Bruce Wayne, which is this idea that if he was a member of, let's say, the Kennedys or like the royal family, and that in the wake of all of that, he couldn't really take the weight of being under the storied name Wayne. And so in that sense, it connected to this idea of this kind of rocker vibe. I thought the danger of it, the kind of tortured, recluse side of it, and I thought in a certain way, the way that, you sense that kind of drive that Cobain had for music and his kind of like jamming with his amps in a kind of decaying old manor somewhere. I thought that related to a rock and roll version, really, of Bruce Batman. That he didn't have, it wasn't music in his case, it was being a vigilante and working, building that car, being a bit of a gearhead, and him just really being a loner in that way. So that's kind of there's an essence. It's not that he's based on Kurt Cobain, but there is a kind of spiritual connection, I think, to the music and the tone.
Matt, thank you very much for being with us in Colombia.
My pleasure. Thank you.